The authorities denied me entry into China.
Play that theme music. Welcome to this episode of Tripology. I'm Alan, and I'm here with the ever-implicated Adam.
Oh my goodness, I feel good, mate. I've got some stories today that are sort of Asian in nature.
Asian in nature, you feel good, and yet you've been described as implicated. You are a walking juxtaposition, a walking oxymoron, a sort of creature that dwells in the space between truth and implication. And I want to hear all about it.
Can you tell that he's had 3.5 coffees?
3.5. Yep. Some people said after the third coffee, Alan, slow down. But then no, another half coffee, and here we are.
Well, mate, you know where I've come from very recently. I came from my beloved Japan. Very lucky to have been there 3 times in the last 4 years. Some might say I'm addicted. I don't know. What do you think?
Addicted to Japan?
I think so.
Now, would that be a chemical addiction, an emotional addiction, or some sort of psychological dependence?
Maybe psychological dependent. I feel very good in Japan. I'm very interested in many aspects of Japanese culture. Food and drink being, the main one.
Yeah.
I just feel very drawn to that country over and over again. And you've said on this podcast, I believe you've said before, I love me some Asia.
You do love you some Asia. I've never been to Japan. Is that one of the things you like about it?
Oh, okay. Interesting. I mean, I've got to be honest.
Yeah.
I've thought about it.
I know you have. I know what kind of a person you are. There is a competitive element to traveling.
Yeah, I mean, I lose almost every time, don't I? Because there's just no way that I could ever overtake you unless something tragic happened.
Yes.
Or for some reason you choose to not travel for 4 years and all I do is travel. Maybe we can have a conversation.
If something tragic did happen, I'd very much go through 2 grieving processes. The first would be when the tragic thing happened and I had to go, I'm not going to be able to travel anymore.
Yeah.
And then years later, the pang as you overtook me on your world map, you'd come to me, I'd be in bed and you'd go, Alan, I've finally been to 68 countries. I'd go, oh, no. Why?
You mean you wouldn't miraculously start getting better as I was reaching the 65th?
Like Grandpa Joe and Willy Wonka. Using the golden ticket, I'm like,
no, I don't know, mate. I do like, I do think about that kind of stuff. I like that I can talk to you about Japan and maybe give you some tips, give you some inside advice on what it's like and hopefully help you whenever you do go there, because I know it's very high on your list, isn't it?
It's one of those countries that I've been saving for when I have time and more money.
You do need more money.
Yeah, there's a threshold I have in mind of Patreon subscribers.
Yep.
Once we tip over, I will go to Japan.
We'll do a Japan special.
Yeah.
And now, am I allowed to go, or do you have to go 3 times before we can then release an episode?
No, I'd like you to come with me to give me those aforementioned tips. But if you want to help me get to Japan, it's patreon.com/Tripology podcast.
There you go. Simple stuff. So, you know that I've been in South Korea, both the listener and also you.
Yeah.
And I do like East Asia. I wanted to stay in East Asia, and it's a very popular route to take, actually, and something that kind of the seed had been planted way back in COVID times when I was living in Hong Kong. What I wanted to do was travel all the way through South Korea, all the way to the south of South Korea, and then across on a little boat or ferry from Busan over to Fukuoka.
Okay, I like it.
Which is, what do people know Fukuoka for? Well, there's a city kind of within Fukuoka called Hakata, and that is where the tonkotsu ramen originated.
Fukuoka, where the hot tonkotsu ramen was created.
Yeah, the pork broth, sort of brothy cappuccino, some people call it.
Yeah.
Ramen style, very sort of thick, creamy soup. It's delicious. And, me and my friend Sasha, that I've mentioned a couple of times on the pod, we had our fair share of ramen. So that was the first port of call. And then I spent about 3 weeks, because I did have a bit of a time constraint in that it was Christmas. And I'd lost, hadn't I? I'd lost that tipping point thing and said I was going to come and meet you. So I was bound by that as well.
Yes, exactly.
But
had to come.
I had 3 amazing weeks in Japan. And I'll tell you the route I did very quickly. Probably will go into detail either on Patreon or a later episode about the places I went to, because they were amazing. I went from Fukuoka to Hiroshima, where they dropped the A-bomb.
Nice.
Yeah, so that was
nice.
That was pretty intense. I mean, you would have loved that, actually. You really would. I'd highly recommend you go to Rock.
From a historical perspective.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I mean, the Peace Museum there is up there with the least enjoyable tourist attractions on the planet, along with places like Auschwitz and Birkenau and the killing fields in Cambodia.
Yeah, or like
The trifecta.
Yeah, the Vietnam War Memorial is maybe another one. But yeah, it's sure.
Yeah.
I was thinking as soon as you said that, killing fields in Cambodia were pretty rough.
Yeah, so it's all pretty rough. And then I kind of went up Honshu like that and ended up making my way to Kobe, which is where the famous beef comes from.
Yes. Now, tell me a bit about Kobe beef, because
Go on.
my understanding is thus. They're cows that get massaged and pampered constantly so that they have no toughness in the muscle. It's just marbly fat all the way through.
They just live their life as a relaxed, kind of very laid back cow.
Yeah.
And therefore can produce some of the most delicious meat on earth. I don't know if they get massages. I think maybe it's more that they're free range and they're grass fed, and maybe they live on a fantastic diet of, it's highly curated to produce the best meat.
Well, you think that free range animals have tougher meat than animals that are kept in close, confined spaces?
You would think that, wouldn't you? Yeah, I don't know enough about the farming, but I do know enough about the taste because I had some. And it's kind of, I would say, how do you feel about this, right? Because budget backpacking and traveling cheap is something we're very passionate about and something that we normally do just naturally.
Yeah.
But then when you blow $150 on one meal, you do have to ask yourself questions about what you really believe.
Yeah, you do. I think. Are you asking me whether I think that you should blow that much money on a meal? Or?
Well, I already have a strong opinion on it because, but maybe it's distorted by the fact that I've tasted the beef.
Sure, yeah, I understand that. I think that there are places where you can go and have such exceptional food traveling for so little money. I might struggle to spend an enormous amount of money on something that would just ultimately I'd need feeding again in 12 hours' time.
Yeah, it wasn't a lot. I mean, the meal itself, I won't go into grave detail, but the beef, honestly, mate, I'll maybe write an article about it and put it on the website, Rice for Breakfast. But it was it was one of the best mouthfuls of food I've ever had. It was so good that I closed my eyes.
How much was it?
It was about $150.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, I got the whole... It was like a 200-gram piece of sirloin steak that was cooked in front of me, teppanyaki style, by an award-winning chef.
If he fucks that up, he is fired, isn't he?
He's not going to fuck it up. He's great. He's an expert.
He burns it.
He wouldn't burn it.
I've done this one well done, I'm sorry.
Well, he asks. Of course he asks how you want it done.
But if you said well done, he would be sick in his own teppanyaki tray.
I hope so. I hope so. Because anyone listening to this, and as the podcast goes on and we become more and more confident about sharing our feelings, if you are eating your steak well done, I'm afraid there's an issue.
I made you a steak while you've been staying here. Mm-hmm. What did you think?
I thought it was delicious. I thought it was very well cooked. I liked the crust, the caramelization on the outside.
Well cooked, but not well done.
Yeah, it was
medium
cooked well.
Rare.
Yeah. Medium rare. I normally go for rare. As we know, I do like to eat things probably I was going to say something awful about the live octopus then, but no, I think treating a meat well maybe means not cooking it to within an inch of its life.
Yeah, okay.
If you can even use that in that context.
Yeah.
So did that, and that's where me and Sash parted ways. So we travelled a little bit Japan together, amazing stuff, and then I made the decision, because I was feeling like I was missing something not being on a bike as I was in Taiwan, that what a great thing to do would be to rent a bicycle in Kobe and then do this huge 650-kilometer loop over to an island called Shikoku. All the way down Shikoku, you'll have to look on a map for this one, guys, and then across the Shimanami Kaido, back onto the mainland of Honshu, and then back up the other side. So it was an amazing 6 days. I squeezed so much in. Way too much for one episode and way too much for this episode in particular. But the Shimanami Kaido is maybe the most famous cycling route in Asia.
Okay.
I would have said. It's a well-known sort of, commercially publicized and that sort of stuff, certainly in Japan, but it's 70 kilometers. It covers, I think it's 7 or 8 islands, and there are 7 bridges, and it's just extraordinary scenery.
How many of the bridges did you go over?
All of them.
You went over all the bridges?
The cycling route is all of the bridges.
Wow.
That is the 70-kilometer stretch.
Right, okay.
So
it starts at the foot of the first bridge and ends at the end of the seventh bridge.
Yeah, it goes from a place called Imabari, which is on Shikoku, and it goes all the way to Onomichi, which is on Honshu.
You're very good at remembering the names of all the places.
Well, it was also only 3 weeks ago.
Yeah,
So,
sure.
yeah, I'd highly recommend it. I actually cut a deal with Trek.
Yeah.
Who
Trek, the bicycle company.
Yeah, the bike manufacturer. And they said, we don't normally allow people to rent a bike for longer than a day because it's kind of, it just allows someone to decide whether they want to purchase the bike they're renting or not. It's like a little test run.
Mm.
And I said, well, can I have it for a week? So they charged me this really reduced rate, which was great. I didn't mention that I was cycling at 650 kilometers. I'll be honest. I think they just thought I was poodling around Kobe. But I took it on like the expedition of its life. I put so many kilometers on that bike.
Communicate? Like people understand English pretty well around there.
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, a lot of people will tell you that the Japanese don't speak English, but if you're around Tokyo or a major city, it's very easy to get by. And
especially, that sounds like quite a high level conversation, talking about the bike. Hey, can I rent it for a little bit longer?
Yeah, well, they had like an English form that I had to fill in, and then we were using Google Translate for some of it, which isn't always perfect, but my goodness, does it help you if you're in somewhere like Japan. So yeah, I wouldn't say that if you are thinking of going to Japan, definitely don't let the fact that you've heard that Japanese people don't speak English deter you.
I actually was doing something with my mom earlier. There's a new kind of function in Google Translate where you can put your phone down and have a conversation sort of live.
Wow.
But I would speak in English and it would read it out in Polish, and then she would speak in Polish and then it would read it out in English. And it's like, that's the only way me and my mum can communicate. No, obviously my mum speaks fluent English as well, but it was quite interesting. It's a little bit of a slower conversation because you have to wait for the reading of what you just said.
Yeah,
but it's pretty damn good.
I know it is scary, and we have actually said we've had conversations like this on the podcast that when it reaches a level where we can all just only speak our own language, is that something we're going to enjoy?
Well, I'm always of the opinion that it's, obviously, as long as people's cultures get preserved and there are people speaking that language, more fluid communication between people can only ever be a good thing. Sure, it might make people lazy, but being able to go to an African village and speak their version of Swahili live through a phone, I mean, that's just opening doors that previously would just be inaccessible.
Yeah. I mean, it opens many more doors than it closes for sure. And, maybe I'm somewhat of a sort of Puritan, or I'm a bit old school in that sense, and obviously I like the fact that I've learned French, and I think that other people benefit greatly from learning second and third languages. However, I think it solves more problems than it
I mean, look, you are proud of the fact that you've spent a lot of time invested learning a language. It'd be the same as someone saying to me, oh, like, you don't need to play guitar anymore, this robot can do it.
You're right, sure.
Obviously there's benefit to you learning French because it changes the way you think, but being able to speak every language all at once using a handset is obviously like pretty cool for travel.
Very much so. I have got a couple of stories I'd love to share with you.
Should we do that after the meditation break?
Let's do it. Sometimes when travelling, accidents happen.
Oh, I've fallen off a helicopter and broken my nose.
That's why it's always so important to have travel insurance.
And for when you do need insurance, we recommend Safety Wing.
There's a link in the description. Click it, support the podcast.
Like an ancient language being recorded by a phone and then spat out into intelligible hieroglyphics, allow your conscious mind to be thrown back into your brain using AI. As we embark on a couple of stories Adam wants to tell.
Yeah, well, we know, mate, one of the best things about travelling, and certainly travelling in certain ways, is the people you come across. And I met some spectacular people that I will hopefully call friends forever.
Wow, you made lifetime friends through travel.
I think so. And I don't even know that, the type of people you meet when you're abroad, if you do connect with them in a certain way and on a level, you don't need to talk to them all the time. You just know that you can reach out. I mean, I got given an email address by this one bloke I'm about to mention, and I still haven't emailed him. And that was 3 weeks ago. And he was very kind and very generous to me. We had an amazing time together. I'll quickly go through that. But I don't feel rushed, and I also don't feel like he'll be sitting there thinking, well, I gave him my email address and he didn't, he hasn't sent me an email yet. So,
sure.
I mean, I probably will be doing that today. But the story is, of course, about...
Now you've got anxiety about it.
Oh, no, I think that cough is kicking in. Oh, my God. But, yeah, so he was a gentleman. He's called Malcolm.
Yeah.
And he's in his 60s. I think he's actually only 60. Sorry, Mel. And he's cycling around Japan at the same time as I was. He was walking at the time that we met, but I was wheeling my bike through a town Marugame, if I remember correctly. And it was just a stop along the way. I managed to get there after a very long day. It was dark, cold. So I was wheeling my bike through the streets looking for a hotel. And out of the darkness, Mel came. He had his hat on, all his gloves, and he was, like the Michelin man or whatever, all nice and warm. He said, "You're all right, mate, you looking for a hotel?" And I was like, whoa, because you don't see many travellers in Japan, or as many as you would do, certainly in the less touristy areas. And very rarely do you hear someone talking with an Australian accent.
Very rarely indeed.
Very rarely. So he said, "Look, come with me. I'll show you my hotel. It's a little bit expensive, but I think it's great. And my bike's there and it's safe and all this sort of stuff." So there we were. We went to the hotel. I ended up staying there because it was fabulous. It was pretty expensive. It was 45 quid a night.
Oh!
Which is a bit steep for us, isn't it?
Too steep for me.
But maybe I haven't got a leg to stand on, given that I just spent $150 on a piece of beef.
Company card, was it?
No. No. I only put expensive stuff on the company card.
45 quid, company card. It's a child experience.
Tax write-off. No, but anyway, put our bikes down and Mel said, "You know what, I'm going out for a bit of food." I said, "If you hold on for 10 minutes, I'll whack some stuff up in the room and then we'll go out together."
Yeah.
So we stumbled across this wonderful, wonderful restaurant, very, very local. A bit of a tip for you here, guys. I know we don't give loads of tips out on the podcast. You can always write in and ask. But if you are in Japan and you're looking for some fantastic food,
yeah,
the trick is to look for a restaurant that isn't trying to market itself. If you could walk past it and miss it, it's probably doing good food.
One that knows it's good, so it doesn't need to market itself.
So confident. Usually just a couple of curtains or drapes over the door,
Yes.
Sometimes frosted glass. You often can't see into the restaurant. Only Japanese menu, also good sign. And rammed with locals at busy times, then, those are the sorts of things you want to look for.
That's like how you could tell Tripology was a great podcast back in its infancy, because we didn't have the word travel anywhere in the title or the artwork. The artwork didn't have anything about travel on it.
No, it actually was quite misleading, if we're honest.
Yeah, just a psychedelic background with two guys with the word Tripology, and that was it. We didn't try to market ourselves, and that's how you knew it was great.
Yes, so I agree with everything you've just said. But I do think you should remember that when you go traveling around Japan. If you want really, really good food, just look for the places that aren't obviously trying to get you in the door.
Yeah.
So we went to this place, had really cool food. It was like a Japanese izakaya, kind of like a pub type setting. Got busier and busier and busier as the evening went on. And then I had told Mel that I worked in the wine industry. And the owner, who spoke great English, he said, "Oh, you work in the wine industry, do you? I've actually got quite a nice bottle that is one of my favourite white wines. If I open it, can you try it for me and tell me what you think?"
Yeah, you can.
And, what an amazing thing. So he came out, it transpired basically, mate, that he wanted to drink the bottle without his wife knowing.
Oh, yeah.
So he poured me and Mel. We ended up drinking 3/4 of the bottle, just me and Mel. And then every now and again, periodically, he would come back for a sneaky sip, the owner, without his wife knowing.
It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, we had amazing food together. We drank a lot of sake as well. I'm a huge, huge fan of Nihonshu, which is the Japanese rice wine. And then the owner came over to us and said, "Look, I actually own this entire building."
Yeah.
Not just this restaurant. There's a karaoke bar and a whiskey bar on the 4th floor. Would you like to come up for a couple of whiskies? And Mel and I had already agreed that we were going to be leaving at the crack of dawn the next day.
Got an early start.
He's going in a different direction. We already drunk a bottle of wine and a few glasses of sake.
You can't go to the karaoke bar then. It's as simple as that.
It's not great preparation for a cycle ride. We're doing about 100 kilometres a day, mind. But Mel sort of looked at me and went, "I'm having a really good time. Should we go out for a whiskey?"
Oh, Mel.
Yeah, oh Mel. So we did, and we had an amazing time. One whiskey turned into 2, turned into 3, turned into 4. He had an amazing back bar, loads of scotch and loads of Japanese whiskey.
And you and Mel are married now.
No, but if you are listening, I hope you are, because we talk about the podcast. I will send you an email and you will receive that email before this episode comes out.
What I like about that story is its genesis, because Mel was about to go out for some food and you were going to check in. I'd have just gone, "All right, see you later, enjoy your food." And that would have been the end of the story. But you said, "Oh, hold on, wait for 10 minutes. And then you instigated a trip between the two of you. And I think that just proves what a great traveller you are. You create opportunities and instances and moments for people.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Well, this last story, just to round off, and I guess you'll understand the beginning of the episode now, was because you've just mentioned that it makes me a good traveller. However...
Oh, because I called you implicated.
Yeah. Well, I came undone when I went through China, because the flight that I booked home, right, it went from Kansai Airport, so this is now Osaka in Japan on Honshu, and I was flying through Beijing in China and then on to London.
Okay.
All right? But I don't know if you know this. You probably do, and some of the listeners may, that I think it's actually just been increased to 10 days, but there is a 144-hour visa
For China.
that China will allow you to have.
I've made use of that visa before.
Have you really?
I have. A transit little visa. When I flew through Beijing, I had a 24-hour layover. I stayed with a friend.
Amazing stuff. So a little tidbit for you, and it's quite generous, I think. They do allow you to exit the airport to explore certain regions, to take your time, really.
It was 48 hours when I got it, I think.
Well, it's been increased to 144, and I think that it might have just been increased again, so that you can have 10 days in specific regions in China and go out and explore and that sort of stuff, as long as you've got a connecting flight, blah, blah, blah.
Pretty cool.
They will let you in, and yeah, you can sort of treat it as a little holiday.
Pretty cool of you, China. Thanks a lot.
But this next section, mate, is going to blow your mind.
Okay.
Because I haven't told Alan this yet, and I've been waiting to do it live on an episode.
I'll assume the mind-blowing position.
Okay. So imagine this, right? I was told that I would be absolutely fine because I'm from the UK, and I know that the UK is included in the 54 countries that are allowed to benefit from this 144-hour visa.
Yep, you've got no reason to worry.
I spoke to a good friend of ours.
Yep.
Doogie, if you're listening, thanks very much, mate.
Cheers, Doogie.
He told me that it was one of the most streamlined, straightforward border crossings he'd ever experienced in travel, because he was on his way moving to Japan, which is now where he's a snowboarding instructor. Amazing.
It's a real streamlined process.
He's Scottish, just for context. And so I thought, well, that's it. I'm going to have a breeze. It's going to be a complete breeze. Walk in the park in China.
Too easy, if anything.
Too easy. So there I was, went down through towards immigration, walked up to border control, had my UK passport ready, and the gentleman there, the border agent, said, I'm afraid you can't come in, you need a temporary visitor visa.
Oh, he's not obeying the rules.
Well, you know, I was only going to be there for about 19 hours.
Yeah.
That was my layover. I'd already booked a hostel in Beijing.
It's already booked.
I've been to Beijing already, okay? I've explored it. I've done most of the touristy things there is to do there, but it would have just been a very nice time for me to go out and do something instead of stay at the airport.
Yeah.
So I then said, I think you're mistaken, actually, because it's a UK passport, and I not only did I read on the internet and have a very good friend tell me that I can come in,
Yeah.
but
Google.
also your colleague just over there on the other side of the room told me that I also didn't need the temporary visitor visa.
Oh.
And he said, you definitely do. You've got to get one. I'm not going to let you through.
You've passed the book to his colleague,
So
and he's still denied.
I know. So get this right. He's in the position of authority. I get it. I don't want to cause a stir. I went all the way back over to the other side of the hall where there is the temporary visitor visa filling out form, meeting room section thing. And I started filling in this form. And then the lady that had directed me to the other place came over and she said, what were you doing? I said, I'm filling out one of these things. The man over there's told me I need one. She said, no, you absolutely do not need one, categorically. Let's go back over there. I'm going to get you through. So we marched all the way back over there. She had my passport in her hand. She went over to her colleague and said, he's from the UK. He doesn't need one, blah, blah, blah. He dug his heels in and he said, I'm not letting him through. He definitely needs one. He's got to go over there and do it. Otherwise, he's not coming in. So I was like, bloody hell, this is such a nightmare.
And what's her reaction to that?
She was surprised. She was definitely on my team.
Right.
So I went back over there. I was now like fourth in the queue to line up and speak to this other official. Everyone else had filled in their things.
Yeah.
What turned into what I thought was going to be 10 minutes and a breeze was actually 2 hours.
Wow.
I was getting shipped around different departments.
Is Doogie getting an earful on the texts?
No. This would be the first time he hears it.
Right.
But yeah,
Doogie.
I ended up just sitting down. You know, I was a little bit like, God, how has this gone so wrong? And then I filled in all the information that they needed. I ended up having a meeting with the guy, and the guy said, we're actually going to refuse you entry into China. We're not going to let you in. And I just couldn't believe it.
What?
I asked him why, and he said, we don't think that you have a job. And I didn't really know how to answer it because...
You own a media company.
I know, I said...
I've not heard of Tropology Media Limited.
Well, they don't have the internet, do they? They don't have the same access.
Oh.
So there I was trying to prove that I do in fact have a job. And they said... This job, one and only job. And they said, we're not buying it. We don't think you have a job or a steady
It's not
income.
something you buy, you subscribe to it.
It's free. And yeah, I was kind of running out of ideas, mate. And they said, look, we're not going to let you in unless you can prove to us that that you have a steady income and that you are working.
Yeah.
We're going to refuse you entry. You're going to have to spend the layover in the airport. We're not going to let you leave. And I thought, this is crazy. I mean, even if I didn't have a job, why is that an issue?
Look, well, you're not allowed to show proof of funds in your account.
I had a connecting flight. He had my boarding pass for the flight I was going to get the following morning. So
Wild.
They refused me entry twice. And then the woman came back over, and I think she took pity on me. She was asking what the issue was and why it was taking so long. And then one of the guys said, look, if you can show us that you do have, in fact, this radio show or this travel podcast, whatever you call it, if you've got some evidence of that, then we might let you through. But the problem is, you've spent 1 month in Pakistan and 2 weeks in Oman.
Right.
And that is too long. And I said, okay, why is it too long? And he said, were you there for a holiday or were you working? And I said, well, I was working while I was there, but I was working on my radio show.
Yeah, which you're allowed to do.
Yeah. And he said, that's much longer than anyone goes to one country for. And people don't go to Pakistan on holiday.
So then I heard of traveling.
Well, I saw the issue here, mate. And do you know what he said as well? This is crazy. This is where I started to twig, and I went a few steps ahead of him.
Right.
He said, did you not hear what happened in Germany recently when that Muslim man drove a car?
It was anti-Islam.
Drove a car into those people at the Christmas market. And I thought, oh my God, he thinks I've been radicalized. He thinks that I've been in Pakistan on some sort of workshop. And, now I've got other plans once I enter China.
Yeah. He's seen you. He's definitely had to look at you in the shower kameez in previous episodes of Tripology, and he's gone, oh, no.
Well, this is where the link comes in.
Right.
Because he said, if you can show me a video from you and your business partner in Pakistan, and it proves that you're in Pakistan and you do in fact have a radio show, we will allow you into China.
Hotline Sinker, baby, because YouTube.com, but that's a Google product. You can't go on YouTube.
Couldn't go on YouTube, couldn't go on Instagram. I said, what do you need from me? He said, just show a video of you eating, of you with Pakistani people, of something that shows you kind of traveling around Pakistan, and we'll let you through.
So what did you...
Which video?
Accidentally going to show him a picture of you.
I showed him one video, and this is the big reveal.
Yeah.
I showed him one video that I managed to find in the depths of my phone, because I couldn't get on Instagram, I couldn't get on YouTube. Which video do you think got me into China?
Was it me playing a sitar?
Oh my God, you got it!
Yes! Video right here now. Play the video.
It was you. It was me and you. Right, there were 4 immigration officers surrounding me, and a whole host of people that were waiting to have their meeting, other travellers that were trying to get through this process. And I was standing there, sweating, flicking through my phone at all the videos of me and you in Pakistan. And I showed them the one of me and you sitting down, wearing shalwar kameezes, with, important to add, no Pakistani people in the video.
Yeah.
It's just me and you.
What did you say when you saw it?
He said, okay, that's fine, let's go.
Yeah, Tripology. Yeah, man.
So I got in, and I had, actually it was quite a crazy time. The next 12 hours went pear-shaped. I couldn't find my hotel. I got left out in the cold.
When you've got a win like that over Chinese immigration, though, you don't need a hotel. You're riding high on the warmth of victory, baby.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to have to be careful what I title this episode, because they might not let me back in. But what an amazing thing. So thank you very much for your help. Thank you for being a fantastic musician.
Yeah.
Thank you for looking remotely Pakistani.
Oh, yeah, right. Because they just thought I was a Pakistani guy.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, well, Tripology podcast, if you guys need any help getting into any country, I'm very ethnically ambiguous. I can be whoever you want me to be, playing a sitar. It's a service that we offer to our Patreons, $25 a month and up.
Yes. So, a bit of a curveball as a traveller, as a backpacker, trying to navigate and negotiate and do all that sort of stuff. But you find out what you're made of in times like that. And sometimes it just takes a little video of one of your mates playing a musical instrument.
Love the story, Adam. Mind was indeed blown. If your mind was blown, send us an email, tripologypodcast.com. There's a contact form there called the Hostel Common Room. And on Instagram, @Tripology Podcast. Rate the show on your favourite podcasting platform. We're so lucky to have you. We love you very much, and we'll see you in literally the next week.
We'll see you there. Bye.